Counselor Accents Podcast. Two school counselors who love their jobs. Oh, and they happen to have Southern accents too. Bless their hearts.
I'm Laura Raycorn.
And I'm Kim Crumbley. And together we are Counselor Accents, two school counselors who are in the trenches with you.
We know what you're going through because we're living it every single day. Kim, we have a bit of a heavy topic today.
We do. It's bittersweet because the topic's heavy, but the guest is amazing and inspirational.
She has been on our podcast before. We love her. Sandy Austin is her name. And she is going to talk about Columbine because it is the 25th anniversary of Columbine. And so we thought, how timely for us to have her on. We always want to jump on an opportunity to have Sandy on our podcast. But earlier today, you and I were talking about Columbine and where were we? I said, where were you in your life's journey during Columbine? So where were you?
Well, and that's one of those things. It was such a pivotal historical event that it is one of those things like, you know, when you talk about it in history, where were you when, you heard Elvis died, which you probably weren't born, but where were you when, these historic, and that's one of them, Columbine, what was going on when 9/11 is another one of those, what was happening, what were you doing in your life? And Columbine's another one of those historical moments, what was happening in your life. And the main thing I remember about that time was my children were very little, like tinies and babies. And, but I remember watching the footage coming out and it was almost unbelievable. And I think the famous scene that everybody remembers is the kids running out with their hands up. And, it was really a surreal moment. And that's mainly what I remember is those images that we were watching come out that night as that was being, it was a little, even though it wasn't, 25 years technology wise was long enough that it would be different today, but we were waiting on those news images to come out. And when those would come out, it was just really scary to watch children, these kids running with their hands up. And
I was thinking about that. I was a senior in high school, and where that information would have been instant today, we didn't know what had happened. And I remember after school, I went over to a friend's house and we were running into her house to run back out and go do some other things. And I walked in her living room and I remember seeing it on the news where her parents had been watching it. And, like I said, today it would be instant. Everybody would know immediately. But I remember truly having that feeling like you had been hit with a ton of bricks because I was standing there watching and it's like that moment collided with where I was in my own school journey and thinking about, okay, wait a minute, because I'd always felt safe at school. We were in this bubble up until then that things like that don't happen. And I just remember standing there watching the footage and just thinking, what? I couldn't believe it. And so, we talked about just the loss of innocence across the nation.
yeah,
And I really felt that as a senior and just, I don't know, just that moment. I can
I
still
think,
feel
yeah.
it.
And I think, as we've said, it wasn't the first school shooting, but I think it was it was, as more and more things came out during that time about how this was planned out and the lives of the shooters and the lives of the victims, as all those things started coming out, it was just like it was a loss of innocence, and it was a loss, and it I think the good that's came out of that is that I think they learned so much because we go to enough trainings to know that how law enforcement handles those things, how as a school system those things are handled. Unfortunately, they didn't have all that then. And so to hear Sandy's story about coming in without, and I don't know how you plan for that, but it certainly was not a plan in place, or even with the law enforcement or anything, of how does this play out, because it was, now they use Columbine as that, they go back to that footage, and that it's in every training I'm ever in about safety, they go back to that and what we've learned from that. So but we've known Sandy. She is one of the happiest, optimistic people, and she works with those students who she's changing lives, and she's taken tragedy that she's experienced with students, and she's decided, what am I going to do to make a difference? And that's what she's doing. So I'm excited to have her on, and excited to listen to her story, even though it's a sad story. She still has brought good out of this bad.
Yes. And it is a heavy topic, but she just has that joy that just, we've talked about how the joy just comes from within. So even though it's a heavy topic, her joy is contagious. Just, no matter the situation, I can't think of a better person to be in that situation to just bring comfort to those families. And so let's jump in and listen to her story. Kim, we are here with one of our heroes. She is one of our very dear friends and such a hero to us. And what an honor it is to be here with Sandy Austin.
So yes, when you say one of our dear friends, we had you on the podcast years ago. I really years ago. I think it
when
was
we were
right
first getting started. Yeah.
And we're just so excited with your message, but then getting to know you over the years, and counting you as one of our friends. And we thought, boy, we are so special, but come to find out, everybody's Sandy's friend. Everybody loves Sandy. So,
So true.
we see you work rooms, and everybody, just your spirit and I just call it your ministry, because you're just your giving spirit and your love for people and the way you put other people first. It just is so apparent. So thank you so much, friend, for coming out, because we know you've had a long day. You have been traveling and speaking and doing all those wonderful things that you're always doing.
And you look fabulous, and we have not been doing those things. And
I've done nothing today, and we look like we've been running over, but
we do. And your Sandy comes on
is going backwards in age. Like, she's getting better looking every time we see her. I don't know what that is. She just has this beauty. So Sandy, tell us a little bit about our listeners, if they, which I can't believe anybody wouldn't know you, but tell us a little bit about what you do.
Oh, Laura and Kim, you guys, and again, I have a counselor accent from Colorado where I say you guys instead of y'all. So you have to forgive me if you are offended when I say you guys. I'm not saying these are male, but anyway. So anyway, oh, what a blessing to be with you two. It has been amazing to watch how you guys have skyrocketed with this podcast. I think it's the top one amongst school counselors around the world, and because you are always hitting the very pertinent issues and bringing on people that oh my gosh, if school counselors don't have you guys on a schedule to make sure they're on every time you're on, they need to be, because this could be you could be teaching a college course with what you guys are doing and helping, and the difference you're making. What I'm seeing, what you guys are doing, is you guys are equipping school counselors so that we can do a better job and be more effective and be encouraged. And you're hitting the crucial points that we are all struggling with and dealing with our kids and trying to reach our students and trying to figure it out. And you guys are doing so much research, and you're staying on the hot topics. And so thank you, you guys. It's just such a blessing to know you guys. And that day that I met you guys, I think is one of my most blessed as a school counselor. So I love you too. So
we feel the very, very same. And just tell us a little bit about your organization, because we know about it and we've heard you speak about it. If you've never heard her speak about this, and then we're going to get into our topic tonight. But talk to us a little bit about how that's going.
All right. So my organization is called the B.I.O.N.I.C team, which stands for Believe It or Not, I Care. And so as you'll hear, I started after I was one of the most involved counselors of the Columbine tragedy. And then 2 years after the Columbine tragedy, we had 4 suicides in 8 months at my own school. And it was just devastating. And after seeing what happened at Columbine and then at my own school, I thought, okay, we're doing all this curriculum, all this comprehensive guidance plan from ASCA, following all those things. We're missing something. We're missing something if kids are shooting up schools and taking their lives at this rate. And I just thought, what do we do? And so after I heard some things, and I'll talk about that in a little bit, but what the kids had been going through, I thought, we need to empower kids to reach out to their peers. In fact, I will say it. What happened is we found out that the Columbine shooters, and they were 4 young men at my school who took their lives. They had all said something to other students that what they were thinking about doing. They didn't necessarily tell the adults, so the adults couldn't jump on it. But so what happened is the kids, they didn't say anything because they didn't want their friends to get mad at them or to break a confidence. And so I thought, okay, we've got to empower these kids to know what to do when they're concerned about their friends and where they're saying comments that they're thinking, okay, there's something bigger to this than just the typical stuff. So anyway, this is our 20th anniversary. This is our 20th anniversary of B.I.O.N.I.C, and we've had over 2,300 schools around the world inquire about B.I.O.N.I.C, elementary schools through colleges, all 50 states and over 36 countries have had schools that have inquired about B.I.O.N.I.C, and so it's incredible. And the oldest alumni that I ever worked with in B.I.O.N.I.C, they're almost 40 years old now. And what's happening is the things they learned in B.I.O.N.I.C, they are continuing in their lives. And now they're talking about starting B.I.O.N.I.C strategies in their businesses where they're working, because they say, Miss Austin, my business has employees who are new, who are sick, who are hospitalized, who lose loved ones. And with the big the great resignation that we heard during COVID, people are saying, hey, if my company doesn't care about me, forget them. I'm going to go somewhere else, or I'll do Uber Eats or whatever. I'll do that type of thing. So it's so needed in this entire world. So that's what I love. Oh, I love doing that. That's my heartbeat.
And I tell you, that whole believe it or not, I care. That message resonates. So what you're saying about businesses, it's past schools. I mean, this is just people
so
just
needed.
feel more hopeless than they've ever felt before.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's so needed. So thinking about this being how many years that you've done this and how many lives that you've changed, and it just continues. But after you meet with you and you talk with you, you realize that Sandy has big ideas, and where most people have big ideas, Sandy has big ideas, and she does those big ideas. She doesn't think, why would I not do that? She thinks, yeah, I'm going to do that. And so that is a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful characteristic. But please, if you're listening, check out, it's a culture in a school changer. So check out B.I.O.N.I.C. And so, yeah, it is. You mentioned earlier that it is the anniversary of Columbine.
Yes. Can't believe it's been 25 years. 25 years.
That is unbelievable. I can't believe that much time has passed. So take us back to that time. Tell us how you were involved in the school. Paint the picture for us.
All right. So what's interesting is I grew up in the Columbine district. It's Jeffco Public Schools in Colorado. And I knew when I was in first grade that I wanted to be a teacher. And so all through the years, I kept paying attention to my teachers and wanting to learn from them and see what made a great teacher. And so when it came time to student teach, I thought, okay, Miss Beal, Chris Beal was one of my favorite teachers. And I thought, where is she now? I want to student teach under her. She was at Columbine. And so I student taught under her. 17 years later, after I was in teaching and then I went into school counseling, I was back in the district on the day of the shooting of Columbine High School. I was at one of the other schools in the district, and they put word out to all the school counselors and mental health workers in the district saying, if you can be released from your school, we have a shooting at Columbine High School. And there had only been 2 other shootings before that. And so we didn't really understand what that meant and everything. But so my school, we each drove individually, and we went over toward Columbine. Since I had student taught there, I knew the lay of the land really well. But as I was driving over there was such a heaviness, and people were driving crazy because parents were driving over there to pick up their kids to get them away from there. And even Leawood Elementary was the feeder elementary school to Columbine. And so what was happening there is that's where all the Columbine kids were being taken from Columbine to meet up with their parents and everything. So the elementary school was crazy that day too. And so anyway, so that's where we met. We met at the school. What's kind of interesting is that when I was driving over there, they said meet at Pearson Bowles, and that's the intersection there. And so I was driving over there, and it's like, okay, I need to get to Pearson Bowles. And since, like I said, a student taught there, I knew exactly where that was. And as I was driving around the area, everything was blocked off. And so I thought, okay, I've got to park. I just got to try to walk over. And so I was walking. I went to a cul-de-sac. I didn't know it was a cul-de-sac. And then I saw that, okay, that was blocked off. And so I started walking out. But then I saw a couple standing in their front yard. And I said, you guys, I said, I am a counselor with the district, and I've got to meet at Pearson Bowles for the response. And they said, come here. And so they took me to their backyard, and I just had slip-on shoes. And of course I was dressed and, for school. I just had slip-on shoes, and they said, here, just go over that fence. It was a big cinder block fence, and plus another bigger wooden fence. It's like, I have to go up over that. It was about 8 feet high. And I thought, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? So they lifted me up and everything. But anyway, so I got there, and then I talked to them. I talked to one police officer. He said, oh, I don't know. You got to talk to the sheriff. I talked to the sheriff. Oh, I don't know. You need to talk to the state patrol person. I mean, they put me through to 4 people, and they said, you need to go to Leawood. And they said, just go back that way. I said, I can't go back up over that fence. They said, that's okay. We'll take you on the that's just a little scenario of what happens with things like that. It's just kind of a crazy time. So they did.
And
take
you
me over.
remember it. I mean, those were the things,
It stands out.
those specific, and as school counselors, we put ourselves in those places.
Yes.
Like when those things happen.
Yes.
You just react, and you just go, and you act, just you remembering those small details.
Yeah,
I was just thinking after all these years, but that's
whatever it takes,
pretty,
she'll scale a wall.
I mean, like whatever it
Yeah.
takes. If it takes an 8-foot fence that people have got to hoist me over, I'm going to do what it takes. So
Yeah.
Go
there
ahead.
There you go. So anyway, so I did get to Leawood, and I was there until, so the shooting started at 11:30. I got there at 1. As I was driving over, the radio was saying there's a shooting at Columbine High School. There are shooters on the roof. There are shooters in the park. There's a park. Clement Park is right there. And so it's just like, oh my gosh. And so someone almost ran into me because they were paying attention to their radio. It was just wild. As I was pulling up to Columbine, as we were in the squad car pulling up, someone had just stopped in the middle of the road, and with the door was open. And what I think that was probably one of the elementary parents that probably saw their kid in the playground or something, just got out of their car. Their car was still running, and they ran over. Anyway, so it was just chaotic. So I first got there. There were only about 4 of us school counselors from the district, and there were police officers and stuff. They said, go into this room. And so we were waiting there, and they were giving us a little bit of information. And an hour later, we did it again. This time there were about 20 people in that room. An hour later, there were about 100 people, and we had to get into a bigger room. Another hour later, there were 200 people there, and they were just talking about the situation, the scenario. And they said, okay, kind of mingle with the people. So what was happening, the kids were coming in from Columbine. They were being sent over on buses. And so we would talk to the kids and say, yeah, go and stand up, and you have to talk to the people on the stage and talk to the police officers, give them your statements and everything. And it was interesting. There were about 4 guys that came in with their shirts off. And we just thought, well, that's weird. Why do they have their shirts off? We didn't know they were the ones that were there helping the teacher, Dave Sanders, as he was bleeding. They took their shirts off to sop up the blood. And so, but we didn't know. There was a lady that came in, and I said, how are you doing? And things. And she said, well, I'm the librarian. I had no idea what she had just witnessed with the kids coming in with the guns and with them hiding behind. We had no idea. And
Right.
so it was just something else. As all the kids were standing up on the stage waiting in line, what happened is the parents saw them, and they just rushed the stage from the floor, and they said, no, 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 no. And they closed all the doors, and so see, no one knew how to do all this, and they
Yeah.
learned, and no, you can't do that, you got to leave it open. And so, but anyway, so it's just the intensity. So as kids would come from the library or from Columbine, they would meet there at Leewood, and we'd have to or people would check them in, and they would mingle in the tiny gym there. And so what happened is, I was going around, you can't do any counseling then, but you just say, hey, can I get you some water? Do you need anything? Who are you waiting for? And that type of thing. And so I I honed in on 8 little families. What happened is, as they were there, they would be sitting together, and there was a couple that really they were alone. Everybody else had more people there, but they were alone, and they really didn't want to talk to anybody. But for some reason, I was drawn to them, and so what would happen is, I'd ask them who they're waiting for is John Tomlin, and so what would happen is the others came and left and that type of thing. But what happened is, as I was waiting, what they would do is, when the buses would pull up, they would say the names of the kids coming on the microphone. And so anyway, and so I would be listening for John Tomlin, and I wasn't hearing it. At times, if I missed the names, I would just look over to them, like, did his name? And they said no. And so I knew that they didn't want to talk much, but I just wanted to just keep stopping by there and that type of thing. Another family had another family was there, and there were people coming to help them. And it was interesting, as I was doing this. This shows the personal side of all this stuff too. As for us as school counselors, I went up and found out. Well, no. So what happened is, as time went on, there were. This is interesting. There was a group of people there, and a lady. What happened is, halfway through the day, they said, okay, most of the people had gone through, most of the kids had gone through, but there were about 14 families there, and they were sitting in little circles. And someone came up to this lady, one of the circles, and brought a blue cardboard box. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. And so I looked at it. She opened it up. It was her son's plaster impressions for the dentist. And she just took that out, and she just held it in her hands. And I lost it there. Back then, 1999, I had a cell phone, but you couldn't take pictures, nothing like that. They were just
Yeah.
basic. And I just had to go outside. I started to lose it at that point. And I just, okay, I got to pull myself together. But that was something. And then, as the day wore on a little bit, after about 6 hours, the Tomlins started having more people there. And so, so I was just kind of standing to the back and seeing if anybody needed anything. And I saw some people there, and they were praying. And I said, what church are you guys from? And they said it was the same church where my sister and her family went. And that meant my niece and nephew knew John Tomlin. And oh my gosh, so that really hit hard there. But I thought, it's good to see that they have all these people there with them. So anyway, so I was there until about 10:30 that night. And then at that point, the advocates went home with families if they wanted them to go with them. The next day, they said, Sandy, could you come back? All the district was shut down. And so I went to the crisis drop-in center. It was at a church. And halfway, about 11 o'clock in the morning, that's when we got the names of all the kids that had been killed and Dave Sanders. And so I had been working with different groups of kids and different kids there. And it just was very difficult when we heard that. And so I was just talking with them again. You can't do a true therapy session with these kids, but just, letting them talk, letting them, tell memories of this kid and different things like that. But anyway, so I was there all that day I was there at 7:30 that morning. I was there till about 10:30 that night. They said, Sandy, with you being, with all your experience at Columbine, would you contact your principal and see if you could work for me for a few more days here and help us out? And so I called my principal. He said, he was an interim principal, and he said, Sandy, do you know I'm a retired Columbine principal? He said, you stay there as long as they need you. And so the next day, then they were opening up one of the elementary schools, and that elementary school, a paraprofessional there was Dave Sanders' wife. And so I was there, and she worked with the kindergarten kids, but that meant that every single grade level in that school, all the kids there probably had Miss Sanders either in her class or the other class. And so they were all impacted. All the staff was impacted. Those kindergarten kids had crocodile tears and just something else. And then that night we went to, I was at the church again, the Crisis Drop-In Center, and they had their first meeting of the staff with the students there, and they were meeting and talking with them all, and that was something else there too. Seeing the kids all together for the first time, it is a big group, and all the staff and everyone there too. The next day, I was at another elementary school. At that school, there were 4 kids that had gone through that school that had been killed. And so it was very impactful for them. The next day, I was at the Crisis Drop-In Center on that Saturday. On Sunday was the big memorial service. And so I was there mingling in the area and seeing who needed counseling, who needed extra resources and that type of thing. Then on Monday and Tuesday, I was at Ken Carroll Middle School, the feeder school to Columbine. And boy, those 6th through 8th graders, just talking with them and hearing their stories. So, and then I just thought, and then they had enough people from outside counseling centers and therapists that were able to help. And so they said, Sandy, you can go back to your own school. Now, the school that I was at back then, where I was a counselor, it was Jefferson High School. It's kind of known as the ghetto school in the district. And so when I got there, they said, Miss Austin, why didn't they just jump those shooters and take those guns and knock them out? And, those guys were used to gunfire. They were used to violence. And so it's just interesting to see the difference in schools, difference in kids and that type of thing. So, but anyway, so I told those guys, hey, I will come in the evenings to help on the weekends. In the summer, I volunteered 2 days a week to be there for them in the teen shouts center that they had created for the kids. And I was counseling at Ken Carroll Middle School for the drop-in center for the families and students to come in and staff to come in and talk.
Wow. Even hearing that, it just gives you, and this is different than what I've heard you speak about before. Because I guess there's so many facets to this story that you remember things. And when you think about this was kind of the loss of some type of innocence. I feel like there wasn't the first school shooting, but I think it was such an impactful moment for our nation that there was just this loss of innocence that I don't think we ever got back, in that this could happen to children, and it has continued. It has continued to happen.
Yes. Yes. And the 13 that were killed, that's the most that had been killed. And so it was so, just so traumatic. Yeah, so sad. And that's what's hard with Columbine, is that whenever there's another shooting, uh, people always refer to Columbine. So it's always in their face. It's always right there. And almost every single time there's a shooting, there are threats against Columbine. There are threats almost weekly against Columbine, threats of shootings and that type of thing. So it's a very, that's one thing that is interesting is, in this area, I worked with 3 other school shootings after Columbine. And what's interesting is to see the impact on communities, impact on families in this whole area. It just, there's just kind of something hanging over everyone, that, the school shootings, why can't we get rid of these things and be done with it?
I just can't wrap my head around how this, but Kim, and it's what you were saying, but when I was listening to you, Sandy, I think it hit me for the first time that this truly was an unprecedented event. And you were going in, Kim, and we've talked about how we have crisis plans now. And if something were to happen, then we would know how to jump into action. And I can't wrap my head around how you had to wing it and just, your first instinct, it sounds like, was to serve. That's what you went in and did, was just serve. And I just, we have a plan. Unfortunately, we've had to have a plan. But
I think a lot of that comes from Columbine, and then any training
definitely
that we go to, and we have those periodically, these safety training. It never fails that Columbine is mentioned, is looked at. So when you said that's something that they'll never
get away
move
from.
past, because there's this counterculture that has almost made there, unfortunately, this dark side that has made heroes out of those unfortunate, those perpetrators.
Yes.
And so there's that counterculture. And we have found out in some of our trainings, even in some of these games that kids can get on to, it is a reenactment basically of they're the shooter, and it's basically back in Columbine. And so we learned that in our district this last training. So I've never really thought about the people, though. When you're a face, and when I think about Colorado and that particular area, and that they can't move past that, because we can't move past it. It is, and we don't really need to. We're still learning from it, but that must be very difficult at the same time to live with that. I've never thought about that.
Yeah, it's interesting. When I was driving over there, so I had been a counselor. I finished in 96, my counseling program, and this was 99. So it was my second year as a counselor. And as I was driving over there, it's like, what do we do? What do we do? How do we deal with this? I mean, what do I say to the kids? It's like, what do I say to kids that are going through this? What do I say to families? What do I say to staff? We never practiced anything like that. We had the, practice counseling one-on-one for people, or, but it's like, I just couldn't get my mind around it. It's like, what do I say? It's very interesting is, boy, the personal impact on it. So it was interesting. The first day at Leawood, when the kids were coming to the gym and things, I was just kind of going with, okay, just care about them, just see, try to be in their shoes and what they're dealing with, and what they can deal with. And then the next day, then the crisis drop-in center, where all the kids were coming to this church and the gym and talking, and so I was doing all that. The next day, the first day that I was in the school, and that's where Linda Sanders was, and she had just lost her husband. She was not there that day, of course, but all those people and those kindergartners with those crocodile tears. And it's interesting is, boy, so I'm a person of faith, and whenever these things happen, I go to my faith because it's bigger than me, and God's bigger than me, and I depend on Him to help me, give me wisdom. And so that night, when I was leaving uh, Leawood Elementary, that first night of the shooting, I emailed three people, three of my friends, and said, "Please pray for me. I'm counseling the Columbine students and families." And then the next night, with more and more happening, I emailed about 15 other friends and said, "Please pray for me." The next night was amazing. I had about 250 emails from people all over the world saying, "Sandy, I'm praying for you. I heard that you are counseling in the Columbine tragedy and stuff like that." And you guys, that night, that was so impactful, because that night, after being there at Leawood, at Colorado Elementary, where Linda was, and driving home, and after dealing with those kindergartners and all those staff members that were devastated knowing that Linda had lost her husband and all that stuff, it really hit me. And I was crying going home, and I said, "God, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say. Tell me. I don't know." I mean, I was crying out to Him, and was really interesting. The next morning, on that Friday morning, I was at that second elementary school, and a mom came in, and she had just dropped her daughter off, and she was just kind of standing in the hall, and I thought, okay, she's struggling. I said, "Ma'am, can I help you?" And she said, "I just dropped my daughter off, and she said that at 1 o'clock today they are going to have an art project, and she wants me to come back." She said, "I can't handle it." She said, "I can't handle being in here." She said, "It scares me half to death. What if someone's going to come in and shoot up our school? How am I going to help my daughter? I've been with her since Tuesday." This was Friday. "I've been with her
Yeah.
since Tuesday, dealing with all this stuff." And she said, "Trying to help my daughter and my kids, and I don't know what to say." And she said, I can't handle this." And I'm going, "Oh my gosh, God, I am not a parent. I don't know. What do I say to this lady? What do I say to her?" And so she was there talking to me. I said, "Tell me," I said, and I know this was of God. I said, "Tell me, when you are stressed, or whenever you're tired, or whatever," I said, "what are some things that just fill your bucket? What are some things that really encourage you?" She said, "Taking a hot bath, reading a book, calling a friend, and doing walking or running, something like that." I said, "Okay." It had snowed that morning, so I said, "Okay, probably can't go running, or there was too much snow to really do that." I said, "How about," okay, I said, "You have about 4.5 hours between now and 1 o'clock." I said, "How about this? How about taking a hot bath?" Oh, she said also that she loved real creamy cup of hot chocolate. I said, "Okay, how about taking a hot bath and just linger in there as long as you need. Call your friend and do this in whatever order you want." I said, "Make that 1 or 2 cups of that hot chocolate." And I said, "Read a book," and I said, "You're probably going to have a hard time concentrating, but if you get one of your favorite books, get it, and just see if you can read," or anything like that. So anyway, at 1 o'clock, here she comes into the school, and she said, "Sandy, thank you. I feel so good." She said, "I feel I feel so refreshed." And she said, "I'm still worried and everything, but I now have the strength to be with my daughter in that art class." And she said, "Now I can be fully present for her." She said, "Thank you for that idea. Those were great ideas." It's like, again, I had never thought of that before. And that's the thing when we're going through stuff like this. And I know you guys, when you've been dealt with difficult situations, we need to go to something that's higher than us. And I don't know, I don't want this to be a spiritual thing, but that's it. We need to go to something that's bigger than ourselves to deal with all this stuff. And so that's what's been um, amazing through the years. Is I have a real heart for school counselors as we're all going through these tragedies and just difficult things that our students are going through. And so that's what I really have a heart for them when they're going through these difficult things.
I love that in the bigness and the vastness of Columbine, you were able to help with just very practical to-do list, and it's I thought back to a time in my own life where I had a nurse who said, "I want you right now to go get a pack of peanuts and a Coke." And I thought
Love it.
of all the things I'm going through, but that to-do list,
Yes.
I know you have some statistics for us of shootings that have happened since Columbine. Tell us
Yeah.
a little bit about what you've seen, what you have learned. Talk to us about some of those
You bet.
statistics.
You bet. You bet. So there's an organization, literature that's by edweek.com. And so they've been keeping track of shootings more specifically since 2018. But since 2018, it's interesting. What they do is they've been keeping stats on how many shootings there have been with one or more fatalities. And so in 2018, there were 24. This across the country. In 2019, there were 24. In 2020, there were just 10, but that's because schools were closed that year
Mhm.
because of COVID. And then the next year, 2021, there were 35. Then in 2022, there were 51, and then in 2023, there were 38. Now, as far as this year, we're only a few months into this year, and have already been 11 school shootings that have resulted in injuries or deaths, and so that's interesting to see.
Mhm.
So that means we could go more than last year. We're on a trajectory that there could be more shootings this year than last year. The most since 2018 was 2022 with 51. Again, that is how many schools there has been a shooting at where at least one person has died, and so yes, it says, let's see, there have been 193. Okay, let me see. It says uh, there have been 11 school shootings this year in 2024 that result in injuries or deaths, according to Education Week analysis. There have been 193 school shootings since 2018, and there were 38 school shootings with injuries or deaths last year in 2023, like I mentioned before. So,
Mm.
yeah, just something,
Yeah, that's
that
really
just.
eye-opening, and
Mhm,
those statistics are staggering to see those
mhm.
numbers go up.
So, Sandy, I know this has been 25 years and you've talked about this because you help people, and I think I know that it has changed you for the better. And we know that good things can come out of tragedy.
Yeah.
But how do you see this changing possibly the trajectory of your life?
Ooh. Oh my gosh. Uh, you guys, it's amazing. I was just going to be a school counselor. The whole reason I wanted to be a school counselor was, and actually, I was a PE teacher before a school counselor. And I always hesitate to say that in limited time because when I say PE teacher, so many people have been traumatized in PE. They were picked last on teams. They were embarrassed to have to dress out into the PE uniforms and everything. So the thing is that I was noticing that as a high school student. I was a gifted athlete, so I was always one of the first picked. But I started noticing because I had good friends that weren't natural athletes like me, and I just saw that and I thought, you know what? When I'm a PE teacher, I don't want any student in there to be embarrassed, or I don't want it to be a negative thing. I thought I want the athletics or the working out and being healthy to be positive and not be negative. And so anyway, so whenever I do this, I say, um, uh, have to explain that as far as PE teacher. But anyway, so the thing is that when I was teaching PE, I had to have a total hip replacement, and so with that, I thought, okay, what else do I want to do in education? I had an English minor. I thought I don't know if I want to do that. Then I thought if I could be a school counselor, because my school counselor believed in me. She knew I wanted to be a teacher, and she knew that I would need a scholarship to get into college. And so she helped me to do some planning and doing some searching on different colleges that where I could go to college and to look for the best ones out there with the best reputation that I could possibly attend. So she really helped me as far as dream to be to go into education. And so I thought, you know what? If I could impact one student like Miss Adams, that was Dr. Glenda Adams, like Glenda Adams impacted me to be able to dream to be a teacher. And I thought, you know, if I could impact one student like that to encourage them to follow their dreams or whatever, and open up some doors that maybe their family would not have been able to take advantage of, then I would like to pursue being a school counselor. And so I've been a school counselor now for 23 years, and I'm so glad I went into school counseling. And it's just been powerful just to be able to make that difference. And then with B.I.O.N.I.C, that's what's been powerful, is that seeing, you know, when we get into counseling, for me, I wanted to help kids know how to care. I wanted to help kids to be kind of like little counselors out there in a
Right.
way, you know, but just to make a difference. And so it's like, oh my gosh, with B.I.O.N.I.C, the kids are doing that. They're reaching out to their friends. It's like the kids got their eyes off their phones and they were looking around to see, ooh, that kid is sitting eating lunch alone. Hey, can I eat lunch with you, or do you want to eat lunch with me or my friends? Or they see kids that are kind of wandering around, look kind of lost at school. They say, hey, are you new? I see you're kind of looking lost a little bit. And they say, yeah, I am. And so they're able to reach out to them. But it's just powerful to see these kids, to give them life skills to where they can continue to caring and to reaching out to people. And that's my dream. And that just to empower kids, because we know this world is in such dire straits. And if we can empower the kids to make a difference, you know, I've told the kids, I say, you guys, my generation has failed you guys. When we were talking about our bully prevention program, I said, you know, bullying was happening when I was in high school. And I said, it's still happening. I said, my generation has failed you. They said, Miss Austin, maybe our generation can be the generation to stop bullying once and for all. I just thought, oh my gosh, isn't that incredible for the kids? And that's what they're doing through B.I.O.N.I.C. They're reaching out to kids and they're enveloping them. They're bringing them in and caring about them. So watch out, you guys. You get me going on that, I'll talk forever.
Oh, no, I love it because, you know, Laura and I had a conversation today, is that some things have never been modeled for kids, but we expect them to know how to act or behave or know what to do, but nobody's ever modeled that behavior for them. And also sometimes when students are offered that, I guess that conduit, that pathway, making it okay to do those kinds of things, and it making it the hip thing to do, the cool thing to do. This is what we're doing, you know, and with B.I.O.N.I.C. And so I think that we expect kids to behave a certain way, but nobody's ever modeled that. And I think that's that what you're doing is changing culture, and you're absolutely offering that pathway for students to choose this and making kids want to do.
Oh, they do.
They want to help each other. We just
Yes.
have to offer that opportunity, and I think that's
Yes.
what
Oh,
so I
Kim,
think
what was
what a
so
great thing. Yeah, go
Oh,
ahead.
thank you. What was so powerful is one of my kids came back to see me. One of my students came back to see me during her spring break from college. And she said, Miss Austin, you know, I learned from B.I.O.N.I.C. She said there was a girl on my floor in my dorm that had lost a loved one. And I could tell everyone was avoiding her because they didn't know what to say. She said, so I just went down, bought a Snickers candy bar, got an index card and said, I heard you lost a loved one. Just want to let you know I'm thinking of you during this difficult time. And just want to let you know I care. And so she went and found her and she went up to her and said, hey, you don't know me and I don't know you, but I heard you lost a loved one. And I know it can be tough, especially with finals coming up. I know it's going to be hard to study and everything. I just want to let you know I'm thinking about you and I care. The girl started to cry. She said, you know what? She said, I'm from Kansas. And she said, I have been so lonely here. She said, no one has talked to me. You're the first person that's talked to me in a week. And she said, I was even thinking about suicide because I've been feeling so lonely. And she said, thank you for caring. I know I'm going to be okay. And so for her, that was Eva. She said, Miss Austin, that just gave me the confidence that I knew what to say to someone when they've lost a loved one. And our kids don't know what to do there. A lot of adults don't know what to say, you know, but that's what's so powerful. Oh,
That's
It
just
is so powerful.
amazing.
Yeah,
And
it's exciting.
it's exciting. And to think that, Sandy, that you have started this whole movement to teach kids empathy and to equip them with the skills that, hey, you may not know what to say, but it's okay. Just be there, be present, notice, be observant. And I mean, my goodness, Kim, when we opened this, I said, we're here with a hero. And every time I hear Sandy talk, it hits me how much of a hero she is. I mean, she is changing the culture of so many schools. You've changed so many lives. No telling how many kids you've rescued through this movement, Sandy.
Yeah. So thank you for all that you do and you continue to do. And we hope that we see you at ASCA. Will you be at, okay.
Yes, I'll be there.
Yeah, let's get together at some point. I know, I don't know if we usually try to eat at some point together.
Yes.
So
Save
we
some time for
will
us.
meet up and eat somewhere at some point. And so are you going to be speaking, or do you know, or you'll be working, or?
We'll have an exhibit booth this year, so yes.
Good.
Yes.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
we will.
Are you guys speaking?
We are. We're going to be speaking.
How many?
Yeah. Two sessions. And yep. And so we will definitely come by and see you.
So guys, if you are at ASCA, stop by Sandy's booth for sure and tell her that you heard her on the Counselor Accents podcast and get a picture with her, post it on Facebook, tag her in it. It will be worth your time for sure to stop by and meet Sandy, the famous Sandy.
Absolutely. Thank you for revisiting. I know this is difficult conversation. This is not an easy thing to remember and to go back. It's not fun, but I think it's important. And we just, honor those heroes that were there that day, and looking back on that tragedy, the good things that came out of that. And you're one of the good things. So we appreciate you.
Oh, I love you guys. And that's the thing, is those tragedies drive me on. Those four suicides, the funerals that I went to at Green Mountain, and we had another one the next year and another one the next year. And, those funerals, those tragedies are what spur me on. And I said, I never want to go to another one. And that's what keeps me going. To know those kids with the Columbine tragedy, that I went to their funerals. It's like, we've got to stop these things. We've got to reach those kids that are hurting.
Yeah. Well said. Thank you, Sandy, for being on. Anything else, Laura, that you want to talk? We have it's late. We have made we have made Sandy come on after a flight, coming in at 9, and we're like, yeah. But to catch Sandy is like catching a unicorn.
Yeah.
I mean, she is busy.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
thank you guys. It's after 10 o'clock there where you are. So thank you. Bless you guys.
Thank you, Sandy. I hope you get some good rest, and we'll be thinking about you as we hear all this anniversary things there will be talking about over this next bit of time about Columbine. So you're in our thoughts and prayers.
Thanks, you guys. That means more than you realize. I love you guys.
We love you. I love her so much. She just inspires me to do more. And then how she has this much energy, how she does as much as she does.
I don't know. And she is so wonderful. She's as genuine as they come. And what you hear on this podcast, and the way she seems on the podcast, she's even better in real life.
Oh, she is precious.
She's
precious.
Yeah.
So her organization, Believe It or Not, I Care, which I think is amazing. I had no idea it was 20 years old, this organization, but we have heard some of the nation's leading counselors speak on using this in their schools. And so look into it. If you don't know about it, look into it, see if that's something your school is interested in. I think it is amazing how she's changing a culture, because these kids want to be busy. They want to do good things, and she gives them those opportunities. So check that out.
Well, as counselors, we're always looking for ways to teach empathy and spread the message of kindness. We talk about kindness is contagious. Well, where does it start and how do we teach that? Through a program like B.I.O.N.I.C. So,
absolutely.
So reach out to Sandy. We're going to link it in the show notes. And
I'm so jealous that you and her are going to be in San Antonio in a few weeks without me. So y'all were talking after we were finished with her part, and you guys are doing some work with C4C in San Antonio. I'm so jealous because that's going to be a lot of fun. She is so much fun to be with. So anyway.
Well, just jump on board, ride piggyback with me, and
I will.
Come on.
Okay, I may do it now that I know. I wasn't going with you, but I will certainly go if Sandy's going to be there.
I don't blame you. All right, guys. We'll reach out to Sandy, talk to her about B.I.O.N.I.C. We're going to link it in the show notes. And you can still sign up for our Growing Your Program for School Counselors course. We're going to be launching that in June. So very soon it is up on us. So I said up on us, like it's
You
up.
did. I'm like, why aren't you saying upon us? It is up
us.
on us. I'm like, well, okay. I took it to mean, wow, she's like taking it next level. It is up on us. Okay.
It was just up at the wrong emphasis.
I guess.
Wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable. Anyway, so go ahead and sign up for that waiting list, because when the doors open, there will be a mad rush. But we're very excited about it. Yep, we're very excited about it. You can order our book, Growing Your Program for School Counselors. You can also order our book, Hygiene, that we really haven't talked much about. And I know we've got some other things going on. I'm not sure, by the time you listen to this, we may have already spoken in New Jersey, but we're very excited about that. So if you're in New Jersey, go ahead and sign up and come see us at the New Jersey School Counselor Association meeting. All right. Anything else, Kim? Have I left?
All hearts and minds are clear.
Okay. Have a good week.